Hey, what's up, bro? Quick little video idea here. MPC 54mm Spacemen, multiple Toymakers. They're all stamped on the bottom correctly. And here's a sealed bag of them, dated to 1972. Sealed up inside of an acid-free record sleeve to keep it intact. It's never going to be opened, I hope. At least not during my lifetime. But I wanted to make a thought on casting changes and the idea of trying to pin down or be able to figure out what era, I don't want to say when the figures were made, but loose figures, dating loose figures is very difficult because they were only stamped with the logo. There's no date stamp on there. So when were they made? And a casting change took place to at least, I want to say, 3 of the figures. And I only noticed the third just the other week when I was like staring at this packet. I'm like, wait a minute, that's different. The 2 that are widely known, and I like to say that the reason wasn't so much the Vietnam War as and its unpopularity at home, but how the space race changed from a militarized mission to civilians essentially exploring the moon, literally in the form of Neil Armstrong and Jack, what was his last name? Maybe we'll have to edit that in. The guy who went on Apollo 17. We did land 2 civilians on the moon, and they were there to explore the place rather than conquer it in the name of the United States. So the toy industry, it may not have been a conscious decision, but they changed along with it, and it's presented here in these figures by how Rifle Guy there got changed to Walkie-Talkie Dude, and Pistol and Lunchbox here, he got changed to Stick and Lunchbox Guy. And I love these rope and sextant dudes. And while just sitting here staring at this bag the other week, it suddenly struck me that there's a difference between this figure here and these guys here. The one in blue is kind of spindly, and his arm is at a ridiculously extended length compared to the white dude who's still in the bag. I don't have a loose version of what I guess is a reworked version. He's also somewhat thicker. His center of gravity looks a lot better placed, and these guys have always been a little bit top heavy. They tend not to stand up too right. So apparently they changed that figure as well. And the thought that suddenly struck me is that if you look at this bag closely, there's 2 Lunchbox and Stick guys, and there's a Walkie-Talkie Dude in white. There's another Walkie-Talkie Dude in red up here, but there's no Rifle Guy and there's no Pistol Guy in the bag. And if we can extrapolate from the 1972 date on it and then compare with when the figures first originated, I want to say 1963 with the Fireball XL5 sets. After that, they were packaged individually. Certainly by 1964, they had Pistol and Lunchbox and the Rifle Guy. But then at some point between 1963, 1964, and 1972, it became Walkie-Talkie Dude and Stick and Lunchbox Guy, and then they somewhat thickened up the center of gravity on this figure here and lowered his poor arm a little bit, although apparently it looks like maybe they lost the terrain. Where's he? Which is a nice touch. That's just a flat base where this guy, both of these guys have a nice little bit of terrain that they're walking on. Come to think of it, this guy here with the rifle, he's got some terrain as well. I think I've got one other. Yeah, even his surface is a little bit more interesting than just a flat surface. But it wasn't about making it interesting. I think it was about changing it for their own needs to sell more units, and maybe they've gotten some complaints about how Rope and Sextant Guy kept falling over all the time. But anyway, if we can compare or figure out when this casting change was implemented, when you get figure sets that have predominantly or all one or the other, it could help you figure out when it was made. Say if it was made before 1968 or after 1968. I think probably by 1969, after Apollo 11 had landed, there may have been an impetus to change the focus of the toy set and drop the militant angle. And certainly by the time the Vietnam War was turning sour after April 1968, there was probably an impetus to drop the militaristic angle down a little bit and try to make the toys more about having fun than going out into the space to conquer. Anyway, if we can, if there's a way, and I've only been collecting for a year now, my ability to research MPC is somewhat limited for some reason. There's all sorts of information about marks out there and some of the other vintage lines, but when did MPC implement this casting change? And if you can nail that down, then you can usually figure out when the relative age of the figure lot that you end up with, based on whether it's got the rifle dude or the walkie-talkie dude, for instance, or the configuration of the Rope and Sextant Guy. Is he all spindly with terrain there that he's on, or is he in a somewhat thicker look that's a little bit less top heavy and won't get knocked over as much during play action, which would certainly be an important point. It would drive me crazy if I was a kid and my spaceman wouldn't stand up. Probably did. Anyway, there's a thought. Any ideas? Chime in below on comments. I'll catch you later.